Hey guys, it's Luke from Mix and Made Simple, and today I'm going to talk about what I'd do if I had to start all over from scratch as an EDM producer. So if you just like erase my memory and I had to start from scratch and didn't know what I was doing at all, what I would do differently. So I started producing like almost 15 years ago, and it took several years for me to get to the point where I was making like professional level sounding music. And I think it took a little bit longer than it should have if I had done these things that I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to talk about 5 different things, and some are going to be quick, some are going to be more detailed than others. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started, go ahead and look at the description below and grab my free ebook. There's also a video walkthrough version of it as well. I packed a ton of good info in there, things that you should just know going forward, things to watch out for or miss that you don't want to fall for. Some of the stuff I'm talking about in this video, but I get a lot more detail in my ebook that you can get below for free. Okay, so number 1, I would learn to mix right away. So when I first started producing, this was like 2010, I got Ableton and I just started making music, and I really just didn't pay attention to the mixing stuff at all and had like no idea what I was doing. And I just kind of blindly, threw compressors and stuff into my DAW without really understanding what this stuff does. And it really just made my music sound like crap. And it wasn't until I met a friend of mine who like showed me some basic mixing stuff that, how much better your music sounds with the mixing. So literally just throwing in some EQs with some, low pass and high pass filters, like high pass filters on all the, mid instruments, and then low pass filters on some of the bass stuff. Just doing that alone cleaned up my music so much and made such a dramatic difference that I wish I just started learning mixing and mastering from the outset. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I would have invested more in actual courses. So when I first started back in 2010, there wasn't as many courses as there are now. Nowadays, there's like tons of courses you can get. But I probably would have got like an Ableton course just to really completely understand the program and then go through it, as well as like a mixing and mastering course. Because even though you can learn everything from YouTube and YouTube can take you a long way, the reason that courses are so great is first, when you pay for something, you're more likely to stick with it and actually follow it through. And also, the way that a course is set up is it takes you from like start to finish, and there's no holes and there's no gaps in there. If it's a good course, there should be no gaps in the learning. Whereas if you're just learning from YouTube, you might think like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to look up how to do this. And then you look something up, you learn one thing, but then there's like all these other little gaps that you have no idea, that you're even missing. And so, for example, if I'm working on something and I think, oh, I want to learn how to compress vocals. Well, you look up how to compress vocals, you see how to do it, and then cool, you learn how to do that, but then you don't learn that having a fast attack on compressor actually squashes the transients. And so you apply the same compressor technique that you do on a vocal to like drums, for example. You might actually totally destroy your drums and you don't even realize you're doing this. Whereas if you got a course that kind of covered everything, from start to finish, you're going to like fill in everything already from the outset. And then once you have that foundational knowledge, you can look up stuff on YouTube as you go and as you need. And I think that's a much better way to approach it. Obviously, though, you can still learn everything you need to know using things like YouTube. I would just be mindful of that and try to find stuff on YouTube that covers everything from start to finish. And that way you don't have any gaps in your learning. And just be aware of that. Okay, so number 3 is that I would completely eliminate this idea that getting better gear would make me better at producing or better at mixing and mastering. So I fell into this trap because for a long time I struggled with my mixes. I just couldn't get them to that professional level sound that I wanted. And so I got to the point where I was like, okay, if I just get the best speakers on the market, then surely if I get those, I'll hear the music and I'll hear every little detail that comes out of the speakers. And that way I'll be able to mix, and then I'll be able to get my tracks, to that professional level sound. And so I spent and I talk about this in my ebook, I spent like $8,000 on Genelecs, the Genelec 8351s. And this was like 2017. And I got them set up, and I was all excited because I didn't know about SonarWorks at the time. The Genelecs had their own kind of room correction software and little microphone it came with, and I got them set up, and lo and behold, my music didn't improve like that much at all. Like, it actually didn't really improve at all. And so, they sounded amazing, but really it's more of your skill set and like your ear, developing your ear and using the good gear that you have and that letting that take you a long way versus trying to depend on having really, really good gear to like get you there in it, because it just really won't. Like the analogy I like to use is like if Skrillex, Sonny Moore, if you gave him a laptop and some like cheap earbuds, like iPhone, whatever earbuds, he'll probably be able to make professional level music because it's Skrillex. And I know he's made tons of music on just a laptop. Same goes with any of these pros, just give them like the minimal amount of gear, but because they know what they're doing, they know what to listen for, they know how to reference, they know how to do all this stuff, they're going to be able to get to that professional level sound like no problem. And it's not to say, that professional level gear doesn't help. Like, of course, like I've got some really nice monitor speakers behind me. They definitely help, but I would say they're not going to fix, or they're not going to suddenly make you a good producer or a mixer overnight. And so that's just something to be aware of. In my opinion, have a good set of headphones like the Sony MDR 7506s or the Audio-Technica ATH M50Xs, if I'm getting that correct. Headphones that have a really nice bass response, that sound really good. A decent laptop or computer, and then your DAW and maybe an audio interface, and you're pretty much good to go. If you can just get really good with that stuff and then kind of go expand from there slowly but surely, then you're going to be really good to go. Have that mindset of being able to make a pro track with the minimal amount of gear versus thinking that buying really great speakers or some plugins or whatever is going to make you better, because it really won't. So that's one thing that I would keep in mind as a young producer. So number 4, which is kind of related to this, is don't go down the rabbit hole of just buying endless amounts of plugins. So the way you should view plugins is buy a plugin if it's something that's absolutely necessary or makes your productions or mixing much easier. And so I'm going to go ahead and list some plugins that I think are really good, some paid plugins that, if you purchase these plugins from the outset, like you're pretty much good to go for life and you don't really need anything else. If you have the money and you enjoy it, then sure, buy plugins. But like I know for me, for example, I've gotten so many plugins off of Waves or just so many plugins throughout the years. And then nowadays, it's like you kind of go on this curve, right? You start off using Ableton, buy all these plugins, you get better and better and better. And as the better you get, like the less stuff that you use. And so, I find myself using like 20% of the total paid plugins that I actually own. Okay, so when it does come to paid plugins though, although you can come a long way with using just Ableton or just your DAW, and you can get that professional level sound, there are some paid plugins that are going to help tremendously, and I'm going to go ahead and list some right now. So as far as the music production part goes, like producing and making music, the synths that I would recommend would be Serum, X for Records Serum. It's like, the most well-known synth at this point, and you can do so much with it, and it applies to so many different genres of EDM. And then so Serum is like the number one. I would go with that. And then for me personally, I really like Diva. Diva has a little bit more of a sound, like a more of that analog type sound, and it's really relevant today, especially if you're making like melodic house or melodic techno, stuff like that. So for me, Diva and Serum. Serum's like number one. I would get Serum, and then depending on what you're making, maybe research and get something else. So that's the synths. As far as mixing effects go, I really like Sound Toys and I like FabFilter a lot. So I've talked about this on my channel before, but Sound Toys Decapitator, it's a really great saturation distortion plugin. If you get this, you'd be like, you're set, you're good to go. And also Sound Toys Echo Boy. But also, if you could just afford the whole Sound Toys pack and get it on a discount or something when it goes on sale, you're good to go. I would definitely highly recommend the Sound Toys pack, especially also Little Alter Boy. I almost forgot Little Alter Boy. If you like to have that altered vocal, if you hear a vocal and has that formatted, shifted vocal, Little Alter Boy is a really easy way to do that. And so those plugins from Sound Toys, and then FabFilter, of course. So FabFilter Pro L, the limiter, is like the standard. It's like the
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I'm forgetting the term for it, but it's like the standard as far as limiters go, professional level limiting goes. It's really flexible, it's really powerful, and it's just going to sound really good. Sound better than the stock limiter that you use that comes with Ableton or whatever. FabFilter, so Pro L, and then Pro Q3. In my opinion, it's the best EQ you can get. It's so flexible. You can pinpoint little frequencies here and there perfectly. It's just the best EQ. It's a really, really good EQ. If you got this EQ, you would never have to get another EQ again. It also has dynamic EQ, so you can use the EQ and like if you wanted to like basically compress different frequency ranges, you wouldn't even need to use a multi-band compressor. You can use Pro Q3 and it works really great. And then also FabFilter Saturn is another saturation plugin, and it's more flexible than using something like Decapitator because you can focus in on different frequency ranges. And so Saturn is also really, really great. Okay, so these plugins, these are paid plugins, they're a little bit of investment. So these are the plugins off the top of my head that are really, really great. It'll take you a long way. And like, I can't really think of any that I use that often. All the other stuff that I've bought over the years, I just like don't even touch. Maybe something like Soothe 2, if you want to look into that one. That's a really popular plugin for kind of taking out like harsh frequencies pretty easily in a signal. I can't think off the top of my head those. If you get those, check those out. Everything I just listed, you're going to be good to go like for life, basically. So so be mindful of buying plugins and going down the plugin rabbit hole because you can just end up wasting a lot of money. And I know it's like you get this exciting feeling like, oh, I'm going to get this plugin and it's going to help with this, but then you get it and then maybe you don't end up using it and kind of throw your money away. So just be mindful of that. Number 5 would be to make the most out of your time and try not to get sidetracked. And so nowadays, we live in the attention economy where everything is trying to get your attention. So your smartphone, I've heard it said before, your smartphone, iPhone, whatever you have, is literally just a slot machine in your pocket. Like that's all it is. I mean, think about all the time that you most likely waste staring at your screen. I know it's a big an issue for me. It's an issue for most people. So when it comes to producing, try not to even have your phone near you if you can. It's just like a big distractor. You can leave your phone outside your room for a few hours. If someone's trying to get a hold of you, and they can't get a hold of you right away, it's not a big deal. So yeah, the smartphone is a huge thing as far as like everyone just trying to get your attention. And then obviously we do work on our computers, right? And so if you're on your computer, you're working on music, but you get distracted by, if you open up Google and open up Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, and you're getting distracted every 10 minutes or so, this is really going to interrupt your workflow and it's going to stifle your progress. And so what I would recommend is you can time block what you're going to be doing for the day. And so let's say you want to do some productive, you just want to make music. Well, maybe for a 2-hour block in the day, you just work on music. And at that point, you can do something like you can use different apps like Freedom to just turn off the internet for like 2 hours at a time and then leave your phone outside your room. And that way you're not going to get distracted and you can just work on music. Or if you have like 2 hours where you work on music and then maybe you have 1 hour where you're taking a course or you're going to learn something. These are different types of like ways to get better at production. So there's kind of like the flow state of it, but then there's also just the part of where you just have to buckle down and like learn stuff and actually work hard on stuff. You set like an hour or whatever. Maybe you need to use YouTube because you want to like look some stuff up. Well, you can get an app like, I think it's called Unhook. You can look up different apps where you can actually block the recommended videos on YouTube. So let's say if you want to look something up on how to do something, you go to YouTube. Now you're not getting, and I've made this mistake before. I open up YouTube, I'm about to look something up. All of a sudden, some nice shiny video catches my eye. I click on it and then boom, just like that, I'm distracted and it's completely taken out of my workflow and my learning. And so use an app that actually, you open up YouTube, it blocks all of the recommended videos. And then, now you can just look up what you're going to look up and learn something and then get back to it and get back to the learning. And so related to this, it's easy to get distracted by doing certain things. If you want to get good at EDM production, just focus on that. I got really into making stock music and I'm glad I did. It did make me good at music production, but who knows where I would be on my EDM journey today if I hadn't got more distracted on the royalty-free music and stock music stuff. If I had started in 2010 and I'd only made EDM music from then on out, who knows where my career would be today. It'd probably be a lot different, but you can't go back in time. It is what it is. We all have our own journeys. And so for me, I got really into making royalty-free music. And I do believe making music and trying to sell it online, it did make me better at mixing and mastering for sure, because the better your music sounds, the easier it is going to sell online if you're going to sell royalty-free music. But just have like a clear end goal in mind. And also, just kind of related to this, kind of like a bonus tip, I guess, is enjoy all of the small wins. And so if you start out, and this is something that's kept me going over the years, where if I look back 6 months ago, 3 years ago, or whatever, every time I looked back, I noticed improvement. I was improving. I never stopped improving, even if it was just small amounts of improvement, okay? So if you start off producing, let's say you just started off producing now, and you think that you're gonna make a John Summit level track or a Seven Lions level track like 3 months from now, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, you'd have to be like some freak genius to make something like that happen. Just get that out of your head. It's probably gonna take you several years to get to that professional level sound. At least like 2 to 5 years of like really, really working really hard, because it's a hard skill. Music production is not easy, and if it was easy, everyone would do it. You hear that all the time. There would be a lot more pros out there making amazing music, but it's just a hard thing to do. And so what I would do is focus on the small wins. So I can still remember when I learned how to do sidechain compression, and it like blew my mind. I'm like, oh, Ableton compressor, I sidechain the kick to the bass, and I learned how to do that. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So focus on those small wins and getting better a little bits at a time, and really focusing on that. Of course, you can have the end goal of being this amazing producer at the end, but you just don't want to think that you're going to do that right away and then get stuck on that, because you're just going to end up getting let down, and you might end up quitting. And so you just don't want to do it. Focus on the day-to-day small wins, and then of course you can have that big goal in your mind in the future, but you just don't want to think that that's going to happen right away, because like I said, you can end up being disappointed. So I hope that helps. If I started off, that's everything that I would do. I would keep in mind if I were to start right now. So if you're a beginner or intermediate or whatever, I hope all of that stuff helped. And anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. If you're more advanced and there's something that I left out that you would do, or if there's anything you have questions with or are struggling with, leave a comment below and let me know. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.